this Pokemon.
No. You don't understand. There was something in the woods.
When are people just gonna stop building cabins in the woods? Because evil shit always happens there. You can never have a cabin in the wood without something bad
You
happening.
realize no white person would ever say that.
I know that. Notice I didn't say it, you did. Thank you for the confirmation.
It's too hard to get zoning permits to build a cabin in the city.
That's true.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
And so in
That's
general,
very
that's the very nature of it being a cabin. It's in the woods. You don't put a cabin on, 3rd Street.
But maybe start building condos out in the woods.
Well, maybe we should start, because when you put out in the woods, just all kind of bad shit happens. I mean, if you notice, I blame it on overpopulation. Because overpopulation has happened now, ghosts ain't got nowhere to go.
Exactly.
They said, let's just go. We got to move out to the woods. Ain't nobody out there messing with us.
Well, the funny thing about the cabin in the woods is usually like you go to a cabin to get away from the craziness of life. But in horror movies, that's the one thing you sure as hell don't do, period, ever.
You go out there for retreats. Yeah. You go out there to help people get off drugs.
Kick back, go fishing.
Well, the problem is that the devil likes that too. He's out there. He's like, I'm just going to kick back and whittle some.
Every movie I've ever seen that's got a cabin in the woods, a cabin at all, bad stuff happens.
Well, yeah.
Even that movie Grown Ups with Adam Sandler. We had to sit down a shitty movie because they were in a cabin in the woods.
That's the only movie where the ghost moved away from the white people. Adam Sandler's here. Oh shit, we gotta get out of here. Oh, Adam Sandler. Even in that movie Mama, man, there was just a house in the middle of the woods. Who was there? Some ghost just found it and said, "This is home."
Well, what there's now, to be fair.
Yep. Again, scary things out in the woods.
Nothing good. Nothing good comes from cabins.
No.
Rent free though.
That is one thing. Yeah, I put up with a ghost if I had to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, hey, ain't no mortgage here. Oh, you boo yourself, motherfucker. I ain't going nowhere. But you know what, man? We wouldn't have some great experiences if they didn't have Cabin in the Woods movies. Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2.
Yep.
I love Evil Dead 2. Cabin in the Woods, the Josh Whedon movie.
Wait. I think you skipped over one of the Evil Deads.
Well, that's because it's not set in a cabin in the woods.
I know what you're trying to do.
No, I don't mean that one. I mean the new one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a reason for that. I said great Cabin in the Woods movies.
Leon, do you know where you are?
Yeah, I know that this movie has been receiving a lot of good reviews.
Has it?
Yes, it has.
Yes, it has. And I know that a lot of people are excited to see a new Evil Dead movie. A lot of people out there are as big a fan as co-host and I imagine, Cyrus, you are.
It's one of my all-time favorite series.
I love Evil Dead 2. That's one of my definitive comedy horror movies, and I love Army of Darkness.
You left me out. I agree with that.
That you know that he's a fan of Evil Dead?
that I am also a big fan of Evil Dead. I thought you hate
Evil Dead.
No. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to watch it. I was working in a studio with some friends, and they're like, "Hey, we got this movie, Evil Dead 2," and I'm like, "Man, I don't want to see a fucking horror movie."
Oh, Grumpy Leon, as usual.
Yeah, and I sat there first intrigued, and then just laughing my ass off. And I was like, "I love this movie."
Well, it is a great movie. Now I think they lost you, Leon, at Army of Darkness.
They kind of did. Yeah,
that's what I was wondering. I was like, I knew there's one of them that you really just did not care for.
That goes from surreal to broad humor.
Exactly. Yeah, and I didn't care.
It's not even I'll let you have it. I myself, I love Army of Darkness, but I'll let you have it because it's not even a horror movie anymore.
Right.
It's a medieval adventure comedy.
It's such a departure from where it was.
Yeah, and I understand that. So I understand the business move to come back and say, if we're going to continue Evil Dead, let's just go ahead and bring it back to the horror roots because that's what the kids like today.
And that's the thing. They're trying to cash in on the kids now who didn't grow up with these movies at all. They're trying to, it's their way of revitalizing the franchise to keep that name alive.
And let's not forget that Bruce Campbell, of course, the improbably rubber-faced star of the original films, is getting old. And he's made very clear, I'm not getting around getting all beat up and sprayed with blood and shit anymore. I'm way too old for that.
Even regardless, even when it comes to, Sam Raimi actually, getting on the news and telling everybody, no, there is going to be a new Evil Dead movie, regardless of whether Bruce Campbell wants to be a part of it or not, where you can see Bruce Campbell just going, crap.
Well, yeah, but Bruce, of course, stepped in and said, you know what, I'll be a part of this. I'll produce it. Thank you very much.
What it pretty much is.
I'll certainly accept some money for it.
Yeah, I'm going to put my name on it and just take a check. Who would turn that down, right?
Yeah. It's like, hey, well, what are you doing on your producing end? What am I doing? I starred in the first 3 movies, goddammit. I made this possible. That's what I did. Now write me a goddamn check.
Yeah, I ain't moving. I ain't going nowhere.
And that sounds exactly like something Ash would say.
But now I do like the way that these movies, in their beginning, the way they differ off. I mean, let's not make a mistake. They are very much similar to each other. But in the first one, Bruce Campbell and some friends, they go out to this cabin in the woods for a retreat. I mean, I think Bruce Campbell just taking this girl out there so he can get laid. You know, you take that's one thing a cabin in the woods is good for. You take a girl out there, she gets so bored, she's like, well, I guess I'll fuck you. Ain't nothing else to do.
I think that was the original idea for all of them.
Why do you think demons are always attracted to those places? Add drugs and and a bunch of teenagers, you're like, well, somebody's got to kill them.
Plus, demons are infamous for their cock blocking skills.
True.
Well, that's why demons are probably trying to scare humans out. Demons probably trying to have sex with his girlfriend, and then white people come in. Demons like, damn, baby, let me get rid of these white people real quick.
But you know, in Evil Dead, it seems like the demons didn't give a fuck because all you saw was them crashing through the window, attacking the first girl they see. They attack any chick running around in the woods. I mean, these demons were proactive in getting that ass.
Yeah, but now here in this new movie, I like the way it starts out. You have this girl Mia, played by Jane Levy, and her brother, played by Shiloh Fernandez. And they're joined by some friends. Lou Taylor Pucci, is that her name?
No, we've been seeing him forever. Wait, way back in Thumbsucker.
Oh yeah, that guy. This guy's getting a lot of work. You've seen him before. He's still more of a character actor, but he plays one of the friends, Eric, and then you have Jessica Lucas as Olivia, another hot girl they bring out there, and they're all bringing Mia out because Mia it becomes very apparent very soon that she has a drug dependency problem.
A serious one.
yeah, where she's actually the monster, you know. And so,
well, like they even tell her brothers, like, yeah, this is a nice idea you want to bring out to the woods to dry out and have an intervention, but we've done this before and it don't work.
They're like, we don't care what no matter what, demons, weather, and she's gonna run away. She gonna sprout wings and fly if she has to. She'll find a red bill out of nowhere and grow some wings and get out of here. But
she's riding on the back of one of the demons out of here. Go faster, motherfucker!
I'll suck your dick. Just get me out of here.
Yeah, she tells the demons, you know, I'll have sex with you. Just get me the hell out of here and give me some cocaine. But it's now the story, I think, just starts to mean nothing when they find the what is the
Necronomicon?
The Necronomicon. The
I
book
thought
of the
you were an Evil Dead fan.
You know what? You know I can't say names. I thought to say the Necrocomicon. The Negro Comic Con. But when they find
Book of black people.
Yeah. Comics for black people. But when they find this book, I think that's where the story just totally disappears, because that's the point where it starts to turn into a movie more about how much gore can we shock you with more than anything else. I don't think the characters develop beyond that. I don't think the movie's scary beyond that. I think it's just that they're so proud of the fact that they're working with practical effects that's the way they're selling the film. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's effective for a while. I think if you go see this movie with a group of friends and you're looking for a fun time and you're looking to just sit back and say things like, oh man, and ooh, and oh, that's nasty, then that's what it's good for. But I think for me, it wears off very shortly.
I would argue that, like, while you're right, it goes from, like, that whole beginning up to find the book and start reading it is plot setup to give you a little bit of character definition here and there that you know, to help some of the little elements towards the end play off. When that happens and it just goes hog wild crazy, it's not dissimilar to what happens in the first two films, really, which go into their own brand of just completely visceralness, and there's not a lot of character development after that point. It's just all craziness. This is actually very similar to those. It's just a lot darker and a lot more trying to be a horror movie.
You are all going to die tonight.
I even give it points for the fact that although you're right, it's also one of those how can we out gory the last thing we just did? They tend to be pretty creative about it, and they keep catching me in ways I'm like, okay, that got me, not because it was really realistic looking, which it's all practical work for the record, which makes it look that much better, but because it was unexpected, because you're like, oh, you got me, didn't see that coming. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess in some ways I can agree with that because I did find myself getting caught up and just, how creative and how insane they can get with the gore. But at the same time, I mean, it really, I don't know, the movie, I found the movie trying to take itself way too seriously. And when it did that, it kind of took away like all the fun and charming aspects that the original movie had going for it. Especially like, despite the fact that sure, those characters at some point weren't too well fleshed out, for some reason, they still felt like everyday type characters. With this, you're introduced to these characters where you're wondering, like, why are these people even friends? Because the whole time they're here at the cabin, they're all screaming at each other. They're all pissed off at each other. They're all yelling. I mean, especially the girl who they're trying to help. It's like she definitely has that, drug addict attitude of, all right, guys, you guys want to help me. And then 5 minutes later, she's like, fuck you, get away from me. I just want to get the fuck out of here. Where's my fucking brother? Get me out of here. And after a while of all that screaming and yelling, you just don't care. You want them to die because they've gone past that threshold of being actual people to being just annoying, like characters that are just there, to be meat for the grinder. And that's all I saw them after that breaking point where they found the book and they get into the story. I mean, that's all they really became, was just meat on screen.
And the biggest flaw of this film is that it wants to have it all. It wants to be a new Evil Dead film that's not like the other ones. It wants to set a new ground with the basic idea and go someplace that's really dark and brutal and like make it where you can barely stand it, which was how people reacted to some degree back to the original one when the original one came out, believe it or not. Now it just seems quaint and campy in some way, the gore in there. But at the time, people found it really like more than they could take. But it wants it both ways because it wants to be separate, but it wants to constantly beat you over the head with reminding you, hey, don't you love those other Evil Dead films? By sneaking in lots and lots of references. I mean, there's just lines taken wholesale, little moments. The only way in which that works is that the film teases you the whole time about trying to decide, hey, who is the Bruce Campbell character in here? Which one of these people is going to be the new Ash? And in that aspect, I found that teasing did in fact work.
Well, I mostly agree with co-host and Corey. And Cyrus, you said a bunch of things that I agree with also, especially the way it was trying to have it all. It's like, hey, we're trying to be more serious and scary, but we want to have some humor in here too. And I felt like it was coming up short on both ends by trying to do that. And what you say about the original, at least Evil Dead 2, looking quaint now, but at the time it was something fresh. Where it's like, wow, I don't know what this is going to do next. And with this movie, I felt like it kept repeating itself. What Cole said about them being meat for the grinder, yeah. Matter of fact, there were times a character would die and then come back to life. And I was like, Jesus, man, it's like you guys have found a way to make me not give a shit and then even give less of a shit that I didn't even give in the first place. I love the setup for it. With the setup, I was like, man, this is going to be all right. All those people who were down on the remake, they're going to see. But yeah, once the book comes out, like there's no more character development. I didn't feel like it was building at all. Like, okay, maybe you just did something to outgross this other thing. But since I don't care anymore and a character can die and come back, then this just has no meaning for me. I was just like, I'm just kind of waiting this out, waiting for it to be over with. That aspect was
standard in all three of the films, though. That was always one of the main things, is that once people die, yeah, that's when they get dangerous. Yeah. So they tend to come back right away. That's like a major element of Evil Dead.
Well, also a major element was Bruce Campbell, was how just charismatic he was, where like, you wanted to follow this guy. You wanted to, what was he going to say next? What expression was he going to make? And there's not that here. These just turn out in like, 5 generic characters who have nothing going for them.
See, that is my problem. I'm not that you're saying that it goes crazy after a certain point, and it does. I mean, this movie does certainly go crazy, but the reason why I love Evil Dead 2 so much is because Bruce Campbell, he is a personality, and he's an amazing comedic actor too. So
he carried that entire movie.
Yeah, he did. But pretty much by himself.
Show, pretty much.
So
yeah.
I do think that there's character in that where there wasn't in the beginning, and I mean, where there wasn't in this movie. I mean, these people, I could care less about them. And the other thing that really annoys me about this movie, that annoys me about most remakes, where they're just trying to, as you said, trying to have it all. They're trying to not only appeal to a new audience, but they're trying to appeal to the fans of the original, is that they show you icons of something. And that's cheap to me because they show it to you, but they don't do anything with it. All right, you showed me a chainsaw in this movie. And at the screening we were at, of course, it was South by Southwest, and people were just cheering their ass off. But that chainsaw was just fucking sitting there.
Yeah, just sitting there.
Ain't doing nothing.
The camera just go to it. It's almost like it needed a guy to go up to the camera, look at the chainsaw, look at the audience, and go, huh?
Yeah, it's complete fan service. I mean, that's all it is to it's bare bones of what fan service is supposed to be, and that's unfortunate because the thing is also that what I was kind of hoping with this new movie was that. I figured, all right, if they do take the route of not, repeating what they already did with the original trilogy, at least they'll bring something new and fresh as far as this mythology that all three of those movies created as they were all unraveling, And with this one, sure, you get the cabin and you get the book, but you somehow lose all the personality that was brought to that cabin, all the personality that was brought to that book in this movie, where it's just they don't even call the Book of the Dead the Book of the Dead. It's just a book. I mean, I don't think they ever even said it's the Necronomicon Ex Mortis or anything like that. It's just kind of there. And I was like, okay, wow, I guess that's your way of just completely trying to separate yourself from the original films. Yet I want to know more about this book. You bring to me, the reason why I should be interested in what this book actually does, and it's kind of just kind of in the background to me half the time.
That's because it's these kids today. They're probably waiting for books on tape.
Yeah, but in the original,
where's the digital Necronomicon?
In the original movie, they fixed that because there was actually a book on tape.
There was. You're right.
But this it does.
I'll wait for this shit on my iPod.
This is a haunted iPad.
It does set up its own mythology, especially in the beginning. The first 15 minutes of this movie, I mean, they really thrust you into something as far as possessed people has happened before this group even showed up to the cabin. But it's like they don't take it anywhere. They don't take it anywhere at all. They don't build on that mythology, and it just left me not caring.
I don't know. I didn't have a problem with that, really. I mean, I thought it changes the mythology, certainly. It adds a few things, like rules for disposing of the dead that we've never seen before. Some people I know had problems with. I didn't. It added something that was no more implausible or weirder than anything else from any of the other movies. In fact, significantly less weird in some ways. But really, if I had a problem, it's what Corey said. It's that, even though there's, eventually there's that character that you find out is going to be the one who's the badass, and part of the mystery is finding out who it is, there's no actor in here who even comes close to the majesty of Bruce Campbell and what he did to those films.
That's just never going to happen.
Like you said, majesty too. You all hail to the king.
Well, yeah, hail to the king, baby. Exactly. I mean, he is so distinctive. He's so iconic, and he's such a giant part of why those Evil Dead films are as good as they are. I mean, it's him and Raimi working together, and this new director, I think, is making, if you separate this completely from the Evil Dead films and just say, I've never heard of the Evil Dead films, I'm just watching this, I think it's a damn good horror film. But the biggest problem is it's impossible to do that. We can't separate it from that. And the movie won't even let us completely do it, and there is no character who does that. One of the ones, one of the main male characters, Shiloh, what's his name?
Oh, Shiloh Fernandez?
Yeah, the dude looks like the human version of...
Which sounds like Senor Chang.
He's the human version of Grumpy Cat, except not cute and cuddly. He just scowls constantly. I'm like, are you supposed to be likable?
Well, his sister is drugged out in the middle of a haunted cabin.
No, he's like that in every movie.
Oh, okay.
Especially with those characters, though. There's, I mean, obviously, as you see the movie, unfold, they actually toy with you as far as who those characters are supposed to be, which is why I forgave it, because you know what, these characters in this movie are not the same characters from the Evil Dead. This is a completely new cast of characters.
Yeah.
Nobody in here is trying to play or be Ash. Yet, like you said, you're constantly giving nods to the original. But I mean, and I think that's where they actually fumbled the ball, because they didn't have that one quality that made all those movies what they were, which is that one solid character that it made you feel like that character Ash made you feel like you could be him. He's the everyday guy. He's the guy who goes to work and pays his bills just like anybody else, except he gets thrown in this unreal circumstances of just like pure hell on earth. You see him getting tortured throughout the whole series, and this you don't get any of that for any single character.
Well, I will. I don't want to keep judging this on the original Evil Dead, because I know that's going to be a common complaint with people. They're going to say, man, can you separate yourself from the original. It's hard. I mean, it's called Evil Dead. All right, if you're a big fan of the original, it's going to be hard. But I will say, if they did take the name off of that and they gave me this movie, I mean, like I said, we just had another Cabin in the Woods movie. That movie was able to make fun of itself and make fun of the whole horror genre that falls into that category. And this one seems to kind of make fun of itself in a way, in the sense that, yeah, we are topping each other with the gore. I mean, I'll give it that. It is fun. I've seen kill movies that I like before. I like going there and cringing and wincing at certain violence that I know is just over the top and ridiculous. I appreciated that. I appreciated that here. I guess taking it on a movie by itself, that just seems like that's all it was. And I would love to come in and say that, well, you know, one of the good things about it is who's going to be the next Ash character. But then it goes back to me trying to separate it from the original Evil Dead. I say, you know, if I'm watching it and I don't know, let's just say I've never seen the original Evil Dead. I don't even know what the name of this movie is. I don't know anything about Ash. I don't know if these characters are going to build up to that. So while as a fan of the original, I appreciate that here. But if I didn't have that, if I wasn't a fan of the original, didn't know anything about it, that wouldn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, you like it and you don't like that quality at the same time. Because
Exactly.
at one point, you are curious. You're wondering, hey, who is it going to be? Because it does keep toying with you and throwing in red herrings as to who that character is going to be that you would only understand in reference to the original film. But at the same time, you're going, look, none of these people are the new Bruce Campbell.
It's funny because it's like it's going like, hey, man, don't judge me compared to the original Evil Dead. That's not fair. Yeah, maybe you're right. Hey, check out the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Look what we got from the original.
You know what? That's
Hey,
it.
stop that. Wait a minute.
Man, that's exactly right. Maybe if they really did try to separate themselves. Now, see, and even they couldn't get the story straight when they were talking about this movie. They had the director come out. And what's the director's name here? Is it Fetty? Fetty Alvarez. I don't know how to say names, so that's why I'm asking you. I'm going to go with either Fed or Fetty Alvarez. In interviews, he would come out and he'd say, well, yeah, it's kind of connected to the original. I mean, they got the car as a chainsaw, but at the same time, that would just be a coincidence, wouldn't it? So, no, it's not really a I really don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
It's hilarious you say that because just today they came up with a brand new story.
I heard that shit.
Oh, how can we cross these two worlds? Maybe they're taking place in parallel worlds or some crazy. I'm like, this isn't a comic book series. I mean, if you want to do something like that, sure, but let's wait to see how the public takes this.
Yeah, they're saying that they want to proceed. Now, look. This is some shit they did. I would like to think y'all ain't gonna get me. I know what they do when these movies come out. They spread these rumors. You notice the movie ain't out yet, and there's already rumors flying. They do that to get in the original fans, and then they do that to get some other people who might want to see the original and then see this. It's hype.
It creates hype for the hype machine, and it gets people invested even more to want to go see this movie to see. Maybe they'll find seeds of these stories they've been reading that could possibly link itself to.
And what they're saying that they're going to do is they say, okay, you know, the original series. Last movie was Army of Darkness. Sam Raimi said, I'm going to get my brother. I'm going to do Army of Darkness 2 or Evil Dead 4 or whatever it is in that series. And then maybe at some point after Army of Darkness 2, we can make Evil Dead 3 or something where the young characters in the new movie cross over with Bruce Campbell. And I'm saying to myself, y'all know good and goddamn well that ain't going to happen.
So there you go, people. Anyone you got to bitch about is
We
comparing
actually
it to
saw
the original.
Campbell on stage say, it's not going to happen. Let it go.
He did?
Yeah. But to be fair, if they do make a trilogy out of these, there's only one way to end it. And let's face it, the vortex opens from Evil Dead 2 in the end of part 3. Yeah. And it looks like she's going to get sucked into the ancient world like Bruce Campbell, but then it stops and reverses. And she starts being blown back against the wall, and an old ass Bruce Campbell with beat up armor blows through it, lands on the ground, chainsaw arm and all, looks at her and just says, what?
Yeah, credits. I would love that, man. You joke around, but I would love that. And
you know what? I don't want to see that.
I
don't want nothing to do with
that.
That
sounds funny when you're just joking around, but when you actually see it on screen, you're like, the hell was that?
Yeah, we're going to get another Alien versus Predator.
Exactly.
Which they might as well be in there, too, if they're going to do that.
When it happens, I have two people right here to blame for it.
And I would also point out that Bruce Campbell said, no way, I ain't doing it, while Burn Notice was still on the air. But as that series is about to end, let's see what he says in a year or so.
Yeah,
Take me back.
He talks a lot of shit.
You seen some of the other horror movies he's done? It's not a stunning list of recent releases. So.
Well, with all that said, I want to be fair and say that I did have fun. I'll give the movie credit for, as I mentioned before, all the practical effects. They are very good, and they are very gory, and there's a few in there that make you hurt. They really do make you hurt. But for me, it's not it doesn't go too much beyond a fun, but an exploitation film, a fun exploitation film, but nothing deep beyond that. I'm giving this a very positive rental.
Well, I'm famously not a big fan of horror movies. Evil Dead 2 was one that I am, because wow, this is catching me by surprise. It's fresh. It's funny. I dig the characters, or certainly Bruce Campbell, and I want to see more. And for the most part, I give up on horror movies having characters that I care about. But in the last year or so, I've seen some. So I'm like, hey, I know what this can be like. And I went into this really full of hope. But I ultimately didn't care about what happened to anybody. Yeah, the gore is there, and if you like that, man, more power to you. It doesn't do it for me. But I'll tell you something else that's missing is, like, having seen Cabin in the Woods that made fun of this kind of thing, it's hard to go back and watch one now, because it's just like, kind of been blown open. It's like watching a Western after you just saw Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is just silly to me now. I mean, I won't begrudge anybody who liked it, but it doesn't bring the freshness. That's what it's missing. It's like, yeah, Evil Dead 2 came out and it kind of changed the landscape, and you can't just come out doing the same thing. You got to acknowledge that and step up your game in that way. I mean, you just want to make a gore film, that's fine. It just doesn't need to be titled Evil Dead. But I'm not even comparing it. It didn't do it for me. It's a rental, kind of almost a low rental.
You know, I agree with what you said. This is basically an exploitation film, but I think it's a really good exploitation film, and I personally like that kind of thing a lot. So I'm like, when you make a great, brutal, balls to the wall film like that, I'm like, fuck it, yeah, let's see it.
I like the way you're looking at me like, I like it. He's all up in my face right now.
I'm gonna get a board with some nails in it. We're gonna have this out right now. But Leon, you're right as well when you're saying, like, look, the originals were game changers, and there is nothing about this that is a game changer in any way. At best, I can say, hey, it's been a really long time since we've seen a super gory Hollywood release film that's almost entirely practical effects and looks as good as this does, and it really does look good. And for me, that was kind of enough for me to, like, add it up that much more of a level in my head to go, you know, I am really enjoying this. This is really getting to me. I'm getting squicked out by this in a way that all the CG goriness in the world can't do shit to affect me. I go, whatever, yawn. But here, when you're seeing practical effects this good, you're like, you get into it to a point, you're like, okay, that looks like that guy's really pulling nails out of his face.
Yeah.
This is kind of disturbing. I like when it just goes whole hog. I started enjoying it from then on. In fact, I was not liking the character development in the beginning. I'm like, boring, get to the killing.
Yeah.
Damn.
But once it took off, I started enjoying it a lot more, despite over-referencing the original films to its own, which hurts it more than anything. And I think it builds to a terrific ending. I enjoyed the hell out of the ending. I'm actually still going to give this a low full price.
Low full price.
Damn right. I like this.
I ain't arguing with you, brother.
You better not. You want some of this board with
Hey, man,
nail
put
in
that stick down, man.
Well, you know, being such a devoted fan of the originals, those original films, you know, that's what did it for me as far as just the whole idea of being in love with film. Those movies did it. And I just knew, you know, going into this isn't going to be any of those. It's not, this film is not going to be Evil Dead. It's not going to be Evil Dead 2. It's not going to be Army of Darkness, and it shouldn't be. It's its own thing, and I'm going to let it give it a chance. Once I did, I realized, wow, you know, it really is missing a lot of the charm and the magic that those films brought, especially with characters, you know, just characters that you honestly, you're kind of worried about, and just the circumstances that really hits them in this whole situation of a cabin in the woods being possessed, along with a force being possessed, you know, fun elements of that, a book that brings the dead back, all those fun elements that created this world. I didn't find here so much. It was all about, you know, just how far can we go with the gore and how creative we can go with it. And, you know, on that level, it excelled. It really did a great job with it. But, you know, as far as the fun aspect of just this whole series of what has brought the creation of its mythology, it's completely lacking in this film. And I don't know. I did have fun with everyone else at South by Southwest showing, and, you know, I have to admit that, you know, once I got involved, realizing what it was, I went along for the ride, and I had fun. So, I mean, I have to give it a matinee just because of that experience alone.
See? Do you want the board with the nail in it? Let's get them.
No, you keep it. I'm going to stick to my chainsaw over here.
I want to know what Negro Comic-Con you reading that you get possessed where you say, I have to give it this. You never seem to be in control of your own ratings. I have to give it this. You really do have the devil in you, boy, don't you?
Have you met co-host?
I am the devil.
back at you. Not another pee. Time to go to sleep.